I'd like to propose a toast, and then my grandson is going to say a few words, but
Uh-oh, keep it together.
keep it together. Dad, here's to you, the greatest dad in the world.
Oh, my.
Happy birthday.
Cheers.
Wow.
Birthday, cheers.
Well, I drink a toast to say thank you to all of you who came and to say thank you to this wonderful family of mine. You can't top them. They're the best.
Awesome. There.
All right.
And,
Well, as some of you may know, I actually have a degree in history, so I love history. And this man here to my left has probably experienced more history than any of us
Yes. You're here.
along the way. So a couple highlights along the way. He's seen some highs and lows. He's seen some disasters. The year he was born, the Titanic went down. About 30 years later, we saw the Hindenburg. Not so good. Correct? He's lived through World War I, II, the Vietnam War, the war on terrorism. Have I missed anything so far?
No?
No? You're good?
Three more.
You're good?
Afghanistan.
Well, let's yeah, Afghanistan, absolutely, he was there. No? But a couple of probably the more important things that he's seen pass, technologically, you saw really the era of flight really started when around when you were born. But you've seen some other things like the Great Depression, which was monumental in our history. So that was pretty tough. You saw him land a man on the moon. You've seen seen him land a rover on Mars.
Right.
Yes.
So pretty amazing stuff there. You've seen computers the size of your house, now down to the size that we can fit into our pockets.
Yes.
So that's been pretty amazing. So a lot of amazing things. But the more important things are, you experienced the disco era in the 70s. That was big.
He enjoyed that.
That was huge. That was huge. The other one is you also saw the end of Prohibition. Here, here. Hey! Huh? Some big milestones. Probably more importantly, two big milestones that tops all of that. You saw the Broncos win not one, but 2 Super Bowls in the 90s.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the inaugural Rocky season in 1993.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
big time. So anyway, you have experienced a tremendous amount. And my only comment is that for those of you from the greatest generation, can you give us some space? Here's to you.
Dad.
and he also told us a little while ago that probably the best and greatest invention in his lifetime, or ever, I think, was electricity. And he said we would not have the electronics that we have today without electricity. So here's
This
to
is
that.
true. Yeah. Very cool.
I have to talk a little bit about the century that I've lived in. And I call it the century of change. Because as I grew up and came along, and I'll go back and start with when I was about 10 or 11 years old. Up until that time, we had coal-fired stove in the kitchen and a pot-bellied stove in the dining room, and that's how we kept warm. We had a nice little home. But along about 10 or 11, a new thing came along. It was called gas. It was methane gas that they manufactured by heating up coal, and they stored it in huge tanks, 100 feet in diameter, and the lid of the tank is what kept the pressure on the line. And the gas line finally got out to our house, and we put a gas plate on the end of the coal stove. And you can't imagine how that changed our lives, because our mother and grandmother could heat up a pot of coffee or set up some pancakes for breakfast without building a hot coal stove in the middle of summer. So that was a change, and our standard of living just jumped a little bit. And every so often something else came along. And we've just about got used to using the telephone and listening to the operator that said, "Number please," and we'd say, "Okay, Franklin 246523," and she'd say, "Thank you," and pretty soon there'd be a phone ring. And then along came the radio. And I had a 1-tube radio set that I listened to on nights. I could get Chicago on a very special night when everything was just right. And it was wonderful. So that was a change. And then along came, we had ice boxes. And we had ice boxes in our home when I started to college. And we had to buy ice every week and put it not more than once a week, once every few days. And my brother and I had to empty the pan underneath, and once in a while we forgot and it went dripping down. We didn't do too well. But anyway, here we were with ice-free refrigeration, and along came a thing called a refrigerator. And one day my father announced that we were going to have a refrigerator, and he arranged for our first electric refrigerator. And if you don't think that was a big change and a big improvement of our standard of living, you can't imagine how important that was. Our food for the first time was really keeping well, and it was cold and tasty, and we didn't have to empty that damn pan underneath. Well, we got used to the refrigerator, and the next thing that came along was natural gas. And we began to have gas stoves, and boy, what an improvement that was. And hey, I may need your help.
No, that's what I'm leaving.
And anyway, the gas stove came along, and that was remarkable. But then we just about got used to raising our standard of living a little bit more and having a gas stove and all the conveniences of that. And then some friends of ours said they were going to have an electric stove. Like, what do you mean an electric stove? That's not good. That won't cook the food, or that won't do this, or that won't do that, or those coils will burn out and they won't be any good. So they got the stove and it worked just fine. A few years later, it wasn't long, I suppose, before we had one. But my point is, in this decade that I lived in, because shortly after all that came along, we had this wonderful radio reception that we had. Everybody had a wonderful radio, and we're now coming up to about 1950. So in the first half of the century, we graduated through those improvements, and our standard of living improved considerably because of those. So the second 50 years, all of a sudden along came a thing called television. Denver was kind of way back and backward. We didn't get it until 1951 or something like that. But we latched onto it, and we've had it, of course, ever since. And you won't believe the trouble we went through with that little green tube that we had to replace every so often when it first started. It was not much better than the cathode ray tube. So that was another big jump in the standard of living. And so it went. Every few years came along, and then the computer came along, and all kinds of marvels came out of the computer. But like Phyllis said for me, almost all of these things are dependent upon power, energy. And electricity is the one thing that you can transport around to everybody in the country very easily with just hanging a wire out. It is a remarkable source of power, and the computer wouldn't be with us today if it wasn't for electricity, or the cell phone, either one.
Yeah.
So we've gone through all of these things, and every step of the way, our standard of living improved. Somehow we got along better. It's so this century contributed a lot to all of us, and we should be thankful for it.
All right.
Here, here. All right.
One more piece of trivia. You know, you guys have all seen the Dos Equis commercials, The World's Most Interesting Man.
Yeah, there
It was
it is.
based on this guy over here, I think.
Yeah.
Stay thirsty, my friend.
Well, he's also a guy that taught all his family to fish and hike and camp and enjoy these beautiful Rocky Mountains. And he and Mom were hiking up Berthoud Pass to ski way before they had tow ropes or anything. And we found a picture of you in your boots and your skis, I think, and they were about from here to there, long-wise, weren't they? I mean, they were big, heavy wood skis that you had to carry up the hill. Yeah.
Yes. We thought it was a remarkable new improvement when they put in the rope tow that wore out a pair of gloves one trip up.
Yes. Yeah, well, I hate to say it, but I remember the rope tows too.
I do too.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
Yep. But we thank you, Dad, for everything you gave to this family.
You bet.
Well, I'm thankful for my family. I don't think anyone, I don't really think anyone can live to be 100 years old without the support of a good family, and I had the best. So,
Yes, you do. And thank you for everyone that came. You just really made
Thank you, Mark.
made the day, and it was just amazing. Thank you for taking the effort and making it happen. Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers to everybody.
Cheers to
Cheers.
everybody. Cheers to everybody.
Cheers.
My roommate from college is here from Creede, Colorado. They drove all the way over here to see Dad because they have such great memories. And of course, Brian from his Harley experience came down from Longmont, and that was very special. There are pictures there, if everybody hasn't seen it, of his Harley ride down behind you. And Bob and Audley, that are friends from way back, we figured more than 70 years.
I was there when she was born.
Yeah, he was there when I was born. Yes, she was. Yes.
Well, I'm only 45.
Yeah, I know, Bob. Yeah, all right.
I'm 46 now.
First lawyer hadn't got a chance, have they?
Betty Lee and Ed, you've bought bridge and golf friends and partners and things for many, many years.
We figured 35.
I was wondering, I knew it was over 30 years. So when Dad makes friends, they stick around, I
They
think.
sure do.
And one of his neighbors that couldn't make it told me, she said, well, she was having her own family get together today. She said, well, who wouldn't like Gordon? I think that says it all.
I agree. Who wouldn't?
Who wouldn't like Gordon?
I don't know how old Phyllis is, but all I know is Ollie and I will be married 65 years this coming June, and she was a flower girl at our wedding.
Yeah. See, he tells all I'll send you home, Bob.
And I remember when you gave Audley her ring in our living room.
Oh, that's right.
What was that?
My God, that's right. I proposed to my wife and gave her a ring in Gordon and Dorothy's living room. That's where you got. Boy, you got a better memory than I have. I tell you, Gordon, I'd like to forget that.
Oh, come on.
Their parents, Audley's parents were very good friends of ours for years and years and years, and we missed seeing Audley and Bob. They moved out to the sticks out there in a place called Broomfield, so we moved in the other sticks in the other direction. We didn't get to see each other very often.
No, we didn't. And that's
But
No good.
no.
we got you together today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Glad you could make it.
And to all you kids, we had special Oreos here fixed up because Oreos is celebrating their 100th birthday this year also. So that's why we have the Oreos.
So are the Girl
So you're
Scouts.
welcome to take some. The Girl Scouts.
The Girl
too.
Scouts is 100 years old,
is
too.
100 years old. So this is a momentous year.
It sure is.
So,
Sure is.
I gave you your ring. You can give it up to Gordon and Dorothy's living room with Jack.
Oh my goodness! Is this all my cards and everything?
yes.
Well, thank you.
I think they're all
That'll
there.
keep
Some
you
of
busy
them.
for a while, Gordon.
Yeah. Wadley brought some cards or some pictures for me to see.